Hearing all summer about how their 2015 NBA title was a complete fluke due to injuries of Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving in the NBA Finals, the Golden State Warriors were out for blood. They wanted to destroy everyone in their path and have fun doing so. And they would have done that to the fullest extent if it wasn't for some supernatural circumstances that compromised their nearly perfect season. The Dubs' journey starts on ring night when they welcomed Anthony Davis and the New Orleans Pelicans to the magical atmosphere of Oracle Arena. Guys, don't you miss Oracle too? The problem for the Pelicans is that they were victims of Stephen Curry. In just the first quarter alone, Steph proved to be unstoppable, scoring 24 points and shooting 9 for 13 from the field and 4 of 7 from 3. For the rest of that game, Steph definitely cooled down and would only end the game with 40 points, 6 rebounds, and 7 assists. What a bummer. However, Steph wasn't done with the Pelicans, because on Halloween, he proved to be a walking nightmare at the Smoothie King Center. Steph quite literally hit every shot you could think of, quite literally playing horse out there. He opened the game with a 30-foot bomb over Anthony Davis, hit another 3 with 2 guys in his face, threw a crazy no-look pass to Harrison Barnes, and hit yet another 3 on Anthony freaking Davis. And what if I told you the no-look pass wasn't even the highlight of the game? Steph scored 27 points in the third quarter alone, ended the game with 53 points, 9 assists and 4 rebounds on 17 of 27 from the field and 8 of 14 from 3. The Pelicans made many mistakes, unwisely going under the screen on some of Steph's attempts from 3, but with shots like these, there's literally no defense in the universe that can do a thing about it. What I'm getting to here is that Stephen Curry was incomparable in 2016, and in over 16 seasons of watching the NBA, no guard season I've seen comes even close. 2016 Stephen Curry was so good that he placed 4th for most improved player voting, despite winning the MVP the previous season. Just think about that. He won the scoring title on not only 50, 40, 90 splits on 30 points per game, but also shot 45% from 3 on a league-leading 11 3-point attempts a game, while draining the most ridiculous shot attempts off the dribble and in transition. That season, Steph hit 245 threes by All-Star break, which would have been the 8th best mark for the entirety of the 2025 NBA season. Not the 8th best mark by All-Star break, the 8th best mark for the entirety of the 2025 season. He did this while shooting 65% within 5 feet of the basket, led the league in field goals made, led the league in total steals and steals per game, led the league in free throw percentage, PER, win shares, and plus minus, while not even playing in 1/4 of the team's fourth quarters because they were blowing away the opposition so badly. There was a point in the season where he was shooting 50% on shots 40 feet or deeper, meaning there was a better chance that he was hitting a deep range shot than Andre Drummond making a free throw. And do you guys remember that Superman layup that was in 2K16 that was created just because of Steph? Yeah. Also guys, be sure to leave a like as that makes a big difference for the channel. Keep in mind here that Steph was the superstar of this group, but they had a very deep supporting cast. Klay Thompson was one of the best two-way players in the game, with a heat check so scary you'd want to forfeit the game after he hit just 2 threes in a row. Draymond Green this season was runner-up for Defensive Player of the Year while shooting a career best 39% from 3, meaning that on top of dribble handoffs with Dre, the Curry-Draymond pick and pop was particularly unstoppable. It was pick your poison. Also that season, he had the Kevin Hart 3-point contest, which he actually lost, but that's a conversation for another day. Kevin Hart's last shot should have counted. Harrison Barnes was a rather athletic wing for this team who could hit threes. Bogut was a great rim protector that was one of the better passing bigs in the league. Andre Iguodala was a Swiss Army knife off the bench coming off a Finals MVP. Saul Livingston never missed a mid-range jumper. Mo Spade's jumper took 11 years in the air before it landed. And Leandro Barbosa was the Brazilian blur who could check into games and completely change them. What's bonkers about this team is that they were 1st in offensive rating while also being 5th in defensive rating that season. They went 24-0 before losing their first game against the Milwaukee Bucks, and they held off the Cavs on Christmas Day in their anticipated finals rematch. And get this, the Dubs were 48-4 at All-Star break, easily having the best record in league history at All-Star break. For reference, the 2025 OKC Thunder, who won 68 games this past season and put teams in Alcatraz, went 44-10 this past All-Star break. Side tangent, wasn't 2015-2016 just perfect? Cam Newton was doing Cam Newton things and won MVP, every artist was dropping music, and you'd have no responsibilities in the world. Anyways, given how dominant the Warriors were, people were wondering if any team across the league could be a serious challenge for them, thus causing people to circle certain games on the calendar. The first was the Dubs' second matchup with the Cleveland Cavaliers that season, which was an absolute massacre. The Dubs went into Cleveland, won by 34 points, swept the Cavs in the season series, and silenced a lot of people who thought the Cavs could win a potential finals rematch. The second was an ABC primetime game between them and the OKC Thunder, two heavyweights in the Western Conference who could match up in the conference finals. This game became one of the most memorable games in recent NBA history, given the drama that happened, and also given the fact that there was a moment that basically is synonymous with Steph's MVP campaign. A near half-court bomb to give the Warriors the overtime win, and capping off a 46-point night where he essentially hits every contested jumper. The final test, and probably the most daunting task for them, was a road game against the San Antonio Spurs, which seemingly the whole world watched. For those who don't remember, prior to 2016, the Warriors historically struggled in San Antonio, and despite being on a 70+ win pace, the Dubs hadn't even secured the number 1 seed in the West because the Spurs were just that good, eventually winning 67 games that season. It would be a hard-fought battle, but the Dubs would prevail. In terms of their sights on 73 wins, well, it was in jeopardy, as near the end of the season, they would lose to the young Timberwolves team that had Karl-Anthony Towns, Andrew Wiggins, and a fossil fuel Kevin Garnett. But they eventually reached the 73-win mark in a game a ton of people couldn't even watch because they were watching Kobe's last game that fell on the same night. With the regular season under the books, it seemed to be a formality that Golden State would go back-to-back, but remember what I said about weird supernatural circumstances being at play? In the first round, they met the worst version of the James Harden-led Rockets in this Warriors-Rockets rivalry, but what's notable about this series is that Steph slipped and got a knee injury that kept him out for the rest of the series, and also making him to miss 3 games. Now it was up to the others to step up, and they did just that. The Dubs closed out the Rockets in 5, and Draymond was a standout in the Warriors' 2-0 series lead against the Portland Trail Blazers. They would drop Game 3 in Portland, but Steph would come back in Game 4 off the bench and drop the most points ever in an overtime playoff game to get the Dubs the victory. However, the Western Conference Finals is when the Dubs looked unrecognizable in a bad way. Despite the Warriors sweeping the OKC Thunder in the regular season, they would lose Game 1 in Oracle, a place they've only lost twice for the entirety of the regular season. Then in Games 3 through 4, the OKC Thunder happened, and this series was over. The Warriors lost by 28 and 24 points respectively in those games, and were down 3-1 in the series. It was now a formality that KD and Russ would finally get their get-back against LeBron James in the NBA Finals. At least, that's what we thought. Despite 71 points combined from Durant and Russ in Game 5, the Dubs kept them at bay to make the series 3-2. In Game 6, the legend of Game 6 Klay was born. Klay hit 11 of 18 threes in a 41-point effort, and Steph put together the quietest near 30-point triple-double in the playoffs you'll ever hear about. Just like that, the series is 3-3 with all to play for in Game 7. This was a highly contested game, but Stephen Curry shined brightest when called upon to send the Dubs to their second consecutive NBA Finals. If this were a perfect world, the Golden State Warriors would silence the world by proving their 2015 title run wasn't a fluke, cement themselves as the greatest team of all time, and also solidify this as one of, if not the greatest individual season of all time for Stephen Curry. However, the wheels completely fell off here. Steph was a complete shell of himself in the first 3 games of the series, dropping 11 points in Game 1 and failing to crack even 20 points in any of those games. The thing is, the role players stepped up and kept this series to a 2-0 series lead against the Cavs. Well, it's 2-1 now because the Dubs got absolutely rocked in Game 3. Game 4 is actually Steph's best game of the series, but this is when the Warriors essentially lost it. Despite being up 3-1, Draymond Green got himself suspended for taking a shot at LeBron James in the nuts and would be out for the clinching Game 5 in Oracle. With no Draymond and the rim protector Andrew Bogut suffering a season-ending injury, Kyrie and LeBron literally made history by being the first teammates in NBA history to drop 40 points in the same finals game and having their way in the paint. With momentum on the Cavs side, Kyrie and LeBron James having historic campaigns in the final 3 games of that series, Harrison Barnes being unable to throw a rock into the ocean, and Steph getting into foul trouble and being more turnover prone than usual, we were heading to a Game 7. From a neutral's perspective, this game was absolutely perfect, but from a Warriors fan, it's probably the most devastating game for the franchise in the Curry era. In a game to immortalize themselves as the greatest team of all time, the Dubs came up short despite a game of the ages from Draymond Green. And this game will forever be remembered for Steph's wayward behind-the-back pass to Klay Thompson, the block on Andre Iguodala, Kyrie's shots, and Steph not having the burst to get by Kevin Love. Cleveland was now finally a city of champions, and the Warriors fell just short of perfection. Well, the silver lining here is that Kevin Durant and the Thunder and Stephen Curry and the Warriors will have a rivalry for years to come. Won't they?